Check your encoder. There we are. Okay, we're ready. Let's do it. Thank you.
All right. I'll send the feed your way. Have a great show.
Thank you. Richard, behave yourself. I always pick
I'll
on
try.
somebody. Okay, dear. Well, everybody wave hello while we're waiting for the music. Matt's going to tee us up with our intro music. Matt, whenever you're ready. Hello, LinkedIn. Hello, I'm covering here. I don't have a fancy countdown clock. Hello, LinkedIn. Hello, Facebook. Twice. Hello, YouTube. Matt, are we getting our music? Anybody hear anything? Matt Widener at Voice America, come in. Are we getting our music? Intro, please. Oh my goodness, this has never happened. Yeah, we aren't getting anything.
Intro? I'm
Nothing.
sending it to you.
Nothing. Thank you.
Weird.
Should we just start?
I'm gonna start playing this. Tell me if you hear it.
Okay. Yes.
Where does yesterday's future, which is already here, meet today's future, which is about to happen, and tomorrow's future, which could be just minutes away? Welcome to Technology Revolution, the future of now, where host Bonnie D. Graham asks savvy futurists for their predictions about the tech-driven trends that are shaping our future right now. Here's your host, who will take us into the future of now, Bonnie D. Graham.
Thank you to the wonderful voice who introduces me. Sorry for the delay there. Bonnie D in the house. Happy to be here. Oh my goodness, it's October 16th. Used to be the world, everything was going so slowly the beginning of this year. And now, wow, we're almost at the end of 2024. And that means it's almost holiday time, kids. So who are you thinking about? What are you going to buy? What are you wishing for in your stocking, under your tree, on your doorstep? Well, there's something that became common cocktail party parlance about 5 years ago. It's called a supply chain. It's how stuff gets to where you need to buy it, where you want to find it. You want to see it in real life, brick and mortar, online, on a website, on e-commerce. Make for me something special. Well, is it going to be there when you want it? Or all your dreams going to come true? That's what we're talking about today. Of course, the theme is the future of supply chain and AI, artificial intelligence. How will AI, can it, would it, should it, shall it, help supply chain get everything where we need it to be? Because as I said, it's October 16th and the holidays are rushing at us. So before my panelists introduce themselves, I have a little opening here, a poem. Praful is new. He hasn't been around in a couple of years on my show. And this is new, Praful. I have an opening poem, and there'll be a section for you, one for Eric and one for Richard. And when I call your name, please just wave. So here we go. Welcome, global audience, to Technology Revolution, the Future of Now show with Bonnie D and her Scarlett mic in the live streaming glow. Today's prediction journey looks at 2024 holiday shopping soon, envisioning supply chain and AI, fueling a real, true retail boon. As holiday shoppers get ready to buy, retailers turn to AI to optimize supply. With early deals before Black Friday's cheer, AI hopefully ensures products in stock are near. As online shopping surges and Cyber Week's in sight, AI personalizes each click for shoppers' delight, we hope. Loyalty programs and perks tailored with care. AI guides retailers through this festive affair. Here we go. Richard Howells wave hello. Richard Howells' skill is making the complex clear. From ERP to Industry 4.0, he shifts every gear. Sustainability, digitization, and insights profound. With decades in supply chain, Richard's knowledge has no bounds. Making mundane information engaging, that's his game. In the world of tech, Richard has earned his fame. You like that, Richard? He never
Very
gets...
nice.
Never. I'm glad. I rent the poems out. I'll make a group rate if you all like them. Praful Karanth is here. Wave hello. Brings expertise from post-merger scenes, retail and logistics. His work is behind the screens. Sourcing, planning, warehousing. He's been there, advising on strategies with meticulous care. From boardrooms to conferences, his thoughts take flight. Praful shaping the future with strategic insight. What do you think?
I might have to steal that.
And
Well, I'll rent it to you. We'll talk about that. Eric Myers is back. He educates and mentors with a passion strong, helping students discover where their careers belong. A trend commentator on finance and supply chain, he turns data into wisdom his students retain. With awards in teaching and a mind sharp and bright, Eric's leading the future with business insight. How about that? And I have a poem for a gentleman who was scheduled to join us but couldn't. I'm going to read it just because we might borrow some of his predictions. So just bear with me. He's not here with us right now. He's somewhere else. Brad Pawlowski leads digital transformations with flair, building cloud-powered supply chains with customer-centered care. From healthcare to aerospace, his reach is wide. Accenture's leader in SAP. His vision is their guide. With Gen AI and automation, the future is bright. Brad helps shape supply chains efficient and right. So there's a nod to Brad. Now, let me finish. So tune in, listen close as we explore the retail and tech line. Will the shelves be stocked and your gift giving fine? Meet Richard, Praful, Eric, and Brad, sharing wisdom from within on Bonnie D's Technology Revolution. Let the shopping season begin. What'd you all think? Cool beans?
I love
Rob-
how
How we can beat that?
I got to tell you, a full disclosure, Richard and Eric can't play because they know this, but Praful, I took all of your bios, which are about 300 words each, and I gave them to my friend. Her name is ChatGPT. She's my virtual assistant. She works for a lot of people I know. And I said, please come up with 4 or 6 line poems and take some of the information about supply chain and AI, which I fed into it, all in one great big text block that was huge. And I hit the submit button. How many minutes or seconds did it take, Praful, before I got the core of that poem? I did edit it after, but the core. How many minutes or seconds did it take? What do you guess, Praful?
Okay, 4 seconds.
Not bad. Actually, about 3 because I really loaded a lot of. It's usually a second and a half, but it was close to 3 this time. Very, very good. You know the game there. So I'm delighted that you all enjoyed it. And yes, I can share the poem with you. So let's go around the table and find out who you really, really are. Let's fill in the dashes and the blanks. Richard Howells, so happy to have you back fresh from vacation. Rumor has it you got a cough, but I think it might sound very sexy, so don't tell anybody I said so. Richard, why don't you catch us up? You were just on the show a couple months ago. Catch us up on what you've been doing, and yeah, welcome back, Richard.
Thanks very much, Bonnie. As the poem said, I've been working in the supply chain space all my career. So if you're watching this, you will see that that's a very long time, just from looking at me. I'm responsible for thought leadership for ERP, finance, and supply chain at SAP. And as I think I said in the last one, my job is to make boring stuff sound interesting and complex stuff sound simple. And I do that through 2 podcast shows, one called The Future of ERP, one called The Future of Supply Chain. I write articles and blogs, and I present at physical and virtual events, talking about supply chain business challenges and trends.
What are your hopes and dreams for 2024 retail shopping, Richard? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be better than last year? Just one sentence. Yes. What do you think?
It's going to be great, and it's going to be online.
That's a prediction I read as well. Let's go to Praful Karanth. So happy to have you back on the show. Putting you on speaker view. Praful, catch us up. What have you been up to, please?
Yeah, I'm fortunate to be at SAP working with one of the leading retailers, or not one, many leading retailers. And as Richard, similar to Richard, my pretty much 35 plus years of experience has been in supply chain. I worked in the industry, so my view and viewpoint is primarily around retail and consumer products. So the whole topic of shopping is very near and dear to me because it's really what supply chain goes through, changes and adjustments to make sure that product is there and make that experience better. So I hope it'll be good. We won't run out of products on the shelf. And so I've been working with a number of customers that are gearing up for this very event, which takes up a large percentage of their annual volume. Happens in 2 months.
Are they optimistic, Praful?
They are, and I think, as Richard says, it's going to be online, so it makes it a little easier for the consumer, a lot more challenging in supply chain.
As long as we have good, solid connections and we don't have oopses, right? Okay, I just want to tell you that I'm here in East Tennessee. Our temperature is topped 100 this summer, which wasn't that long ago. And last night the temperature was 35 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh,
Okay. Okay. And we have outages all the time in the middle of something. So what can I tell you? Eric Myers is back, our instructor, our college professor. Eric, catch us up. You were here a couple weeks ago with Richard as well. So what's going on? Talk to me.
well, hello, Bonnie. Hello, Richard. Hello, Praful. It's great to be back. I'm looking forward to today's conversation and today's discussion. It's hard to believe, as you mentioned at the beginning of our episode, that we're already in the middle of October. We're entering the holiday season, so I'm always reminded of that as an instructor. I keep having to pinch myself, saying, "Where did the semester go? Where does the time keep flying?" And it's they always say, if you're having fun, I guess the time and the days do go by quicker and quicker. So everything is doing great or going great. Students are fantastic. I continue to learn so much from them when it comes to supply chain, is exciting them about the holiday season, what's trendy, especially in the Gen Z community. So I continue to be so, thankful and grateful for what I do. And I'm really looking forward to, again, today's conversation and seeing what is in store as we enter this crisp and cool holiday season, as I like to
Thank
say.
you very much. What are Gen Zs going to be shopping for, Eric? Richard and Prabal, I didn't think about we'd have a Gen Z expert here or a visionary. Anything we need to know about Eric Myers?
Yeah, well, take this for a grain of salt. So this is, a small sample size compared to all the Gen Zs that are out there. But from the ones that I've been teaching, they seem to be really into certain types of tech products, the headphones to listen to their music, Apple Watches, a little bit more into certain clothing, from some of the finer boutique, retail stores, both in Canada and the US. So we're starting to see, or at least I'm starting to see that, some luxury trend followers, a little bit on the outdoor enthusiasts or urban commuters too. And I think that they will make up, a large percentage of what we're seeing, in the retail shopping season coming up.
Thank you. I didn't really count on having some insight into one of our shopping demographics, but I figured as long as you're here and you're talking about it. I recently I found an article on was it Gen Z and Gen X vocabulary, written by a woman who has kids in that age group, and I did it on one of my other shows, and it was fascinating to hear how they talk. Okay, let's move on. It's the time of the show where I've asked my three guests to send me a fictional quote from a movie or TV show or a song lyric that has nothing to do with, I don't know how many. Where did Eric go? Eric, your camera turned off. It has nothing to do with supply chain or shopping or retail, and you're going to relate it to the topic. He's back. Okay, good. So let's go to Richard. Richard has sent a holiday quote, and the quote is from The Grinch, played by the wonderful Jim Carrey with two R's. I never remember because most Carries are just C-R-E-Y. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, 2000 American Christmas fantasy comedy film. It's also AKA How the Grinch Stole Christmas or Dr. Seuss's The Grinch or simply The Grinch. It's got a lot of AKAs narrated by Anthony Hopkins. The Grinch, a grumpy green recluse living on Mount Crumpet, despises Christmas and the joyful residents of Whoville, and he sets out to sabotage their holiday celebration. So here is the quote Richard has picked. This is an interesting one, Richard. I guess I could use a little social interaction. Richard, what does this have to do with our topic? Go ahead.
Well, I first of all, I didn't realize that my countryman Anthony Hopkins was the narrator, but good to know.
Yep.
Hopefully, I sound a little bit like him.
You do.
But I think this is a great quote to kick off this whole conversation because I'm looking forward to a little social interaction with all of the guests. It's been great so far. I'm looking forward to a lot more. But I also think we can lean it towards social interaction from an e-commerce perspective as well, and the social interaction that we'll all be having with our computers, our phones in this holiday season, to buy gifts and to research gifts and to get recommendations for gifts.
Little social interaction. And what about the social interaction action aspect of understanding what supply chain is? Because people say, why can't I get this? Where is it? I thought I could order this. What about that social interaction, Richard? Is that a socialization topic to understand supply chain? Are we
I think
educating?
it is because
Yeah, I do
every
too.
time I buy something now, I can look and see that it's 8 stops away when it's being delivered, or where it is in the supply chain based on the 3 days before it's delivered. So that visibility, it's always about visibility when it comes to supply chain, and we're doing that more and more on our social tools, our phones, our iPads, our computers.
Thank you. Well done. Thank you very much. Praful has sent a quote from, oh, we're switching gears here, dear. Michael Corleone, played by Al Pacino, who I understand just became a father again at 84. The Godfather Part 2, 1974 epic crime film, produced and directed by Francis Ford Coppola, loosely based on the 1969 novel, The Godfather by Mario Puzo, and Coppola co-wrote the screenplay. It's considered one of the greatest films of all time, a rare example of a sequel that was better than the predecessor. The American Film Institute ranked it the 32nd greatest film in American film history back in 1997, Praful, and it kept that ranking 10 years later, and they had a part 3 as well. Here is the quote, "Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer." What does this have to do with our topic? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, first of all, yeah, it is one of my favorite all times. I actually ended up buying the whole trilogy. And I don't watch it as much as I'd love to, but I think it's one of the most brilliant films. So when you asked for a quote from a favorite movie, that was it. But when I think of it, what is related to supply chain? I prefer to call it value chain. I know we all supply chain because it starts with a demand, right? If you can't get the demand, you can supply as you want. It might going to misalign with the demand. But if I take those two words off, friends and enemies, and I translate in business terms, it's in retail, it's all about keeping your customers close. We have a phrase called customer adaptive, and it simply says, get to know your consumer. In retail, we call it consumer intimacy, and then deliver based on their needs, not based on the retailer's needs, but based on their needs. And when you look at this, it's about not just keeping your customers close, because retailers do a pretty good job of that, or they want to. But the enemies, I would call it, keep your suppliers closer, because they are the starting funnel of what products are going to make it through. And it may not be the supplier that makes the product, could be a third party that you use to bring it on a container in a ship, or a carrier to your distribution center. So it's not about keeping it closer as much as don't forget the other side of the value. Get the consumer, but also engage, collaborate as you would with your customers, with your suppliers. So I was trying to draw the parallel to a very totally different topic to how it applies in the whole value chain of source to having it delivered to the store, to the shelf.
May I say, sir, that was eloquent. And I learned new vocabulary. I think Richard probably knows it. Eric, you could use some of this with your students if you haven't introduced them to value chain demand. Yes, customer centricity, and the whole. I was introduced to a term years ago, Praful, and everybody called guerrilla marketing. Way back in the day, before we even knew what supply chain, we weren't even talking about. We're talking decades, and the concept was very, very simple. Let's say you're selling a toaster, and your ad in a magazine would say, comes in 12 colors, best toaster ever made, family business owned for 50 years, buy. Well, that's got nothing to do with the customer. The ad for guerrilla marketing would be, is your family in a rush in the morning, and you have this great whole wheat bread that's going to supply them with the vitamins and minerals they need to have an absolutely great day and get off to a good start? Our toaster will fit on the smallest of kitchen counters. It will save electricity. It will pop out 3 slices for your spouse, for your children, and 1 for you on the way out the door. Easy cleanup. Push the button. The tray comes out. Wow. Here's the number to buy our toaster. Big difference, right? That was what we learned in guerrilla marketing. That was customer centric before we even were talking about it. Does that make sense, Praful?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it keeps pushing the envelope in terms of what it takes to be customer centric.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. A great quote. I love the way you related that. Very cool. Eric Myers has picked a quote. Of course, from a Canadian rock band. BTO, Bachman Turner Overdrive, 1974 album, Not Fragile. That says a lot about what people are going to be shipping in the holiday season. Not fragile, we hope, right? Forget about the oranges from Florida and the Steuben glass that you're buying for somebody. I know. This is written by Randy Bachman for the band's third studio album in 1974, released as a single. The number one on Billboard Hot 100 singles chart, Canadian RPM chart that week, November 9th, 1974. Okay, here's the story of I didn't know this, Eric. The narrator meets a devil woman who gives him love. The chorus includes the famous stutter as she looks at him with big brown eyes and said, "You ain't seen nothing yet, baby. You ain't seen nothing yet. Here's something you're never gonna forget, baby. You ain't seen nothing." And it was actually a joke for Randy Bachman's brother Gary, who had a stutter, and they never thought the song would see the light of day. And it became one of their biggest hits. They thought it was a stupid song, and it became a hit. Here's the quote. I already said it 5 times. "You ain't seen nothing yet." Eric, did you know that backstory about the song?
No, I didn't know the backstory. I knew a little bit about kind of, what the lyrics mean or what their, the message was trying to be stated, but not to the extent that you were just summarizing there. So I always, again, learn something new each and every day. So
You
that
know
would
my
must be-
research. I love to
Yeah.
research my quote. Eric, I'm putting you on speaker view. Tell us what this has to do with I hope it's good news. Go ahead, Eric.
Yes. Oh, definitely good news. So that song is really, important to me as a Canadian. Bachman Turner has, released a lot of great, tunes over the years, but I feel "You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet" is very appropriate for, not just today's conversation, but the retail shopping season as a whole. The last 3 to 4 years have been really interesting as we, navigate past this post-pandemic world and seeing that the impact that various shutdowns, lockdowns, etc. had on the retail shopping season. So I think it's been a little bit slower the last 2-3 years. Certainly in Canada and even in the United States and other parts of the world. I truly think that we haven't seen anything yet as far as not, maybe as bad as the last couple of years, but the best, is yet to come. And I think we've seen, like I said, those peaks, but the best is, ahead. And I think we have yet to see kind of the full extent of how great this upcoming holiday shopping season is going to be, both in Canada and in the U.S.
Thank you very much. North America rules, right? I shouldn't have said that, but yeah, my family has made life very easy for me. They all have Amazon wish lists, gift lists. And if I don't see something that I want to buy for them or that I like, it's called gift certificates, e-gifts. It arrives within 5 minutes. It's Amazon or it's iTunes or it's some other service. Used to be for my granddaughter's American Girl dolls, whatever they want, and that way they get to buy whatever they choose. And all I ask in the gift note is, please send me a picture of what you bought and let me know what you did with it. That's all. Just find something that makes you happy. Maybe that's a lazy way of gift giving. I don't know. Praful sitting there saying, "Did she really say that?" Yeah, I did. My kids are all over the place and they all have their own lives and I don't always know what they want. So anyway, that's the way it works. Let's go. And thank you all for the quotes. I really appreciate it. We learned a lot through the quotes today. Let's go to the predictions. Richard Howells, I put your number 3 prediction into the chat for you. I would like to read it and have you expand it. Praful and Eric, if you have any comments to make about Richard's prediction, I think you have 10 fingers. I don't respond to the middle one, but any other finger, just wiggle it and I'll see you on the screen and then you can get a minute or minute and a half or whatever. We're not clocking you. Comments back. So Richard says the following. AI has the potential, this is our topic, to be a game changer for supply chain and the gift that keeps on giving. I'm going to stop there, Richard. There was a lot more, but I want to just do this preview for your prediction. Richard, tell us more.
Well, the reality is that in today's business and across global supply chains, we have more information than ever before, more data than ever before, coming from our business systems as we collaborate with our suppliers, and also unstructured sources, which is becoming increasingly important. Things like weather patterns, traffic patterns, social media, celebrity endorsements can have a big impact on items this holiday season, for example. And the key is, how do we leverage that data to better serve our customers and make our make our employees more productive in serving those customers. That customer centricity that Praful was talking about a little earlier. And this is where AI comes in, because AI is a tool that it really does leverage data. It can analyze data. So there's lots of examples where I see opportunities moving forward. I mean, it starts right at the start of the process and identifying shopping trends, so that you know what product should be placed in the store and when they should be placed there. How a lot of customers are starting their shopping early this year, and that data is being collected, and it can be analyzed leveraging AI to make sure that you source the right products at the right locations. We're seeing targeted marketing campaigns. You talked about guerrilla marketing a little earlier.
Hmm.
We're really talking about guerrilla marketing to the segment of one in many cases. If you go into your Facebook, you'll see things popping up about things that you talked about with somebody on the phone 2 days before, and I think Facebook might be listening. But
Uh-oh.
it's targeted marketing generated by AI specifically to the audience, and that then goes down to personalized shopping experiences.
You're
AI
covering the entire topic, Richard. You know that. You're giving us a summary of that's a very broad prediction. I want you to focus on just one thing, because we're covering everything, and I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance with their predictions. What's the one thing that stands out to you about that role as a game changer? What's the top line for what AI can do? What do you think?
It can,
What's
well, if we look at it from a supply chain perspective,
Yeah.
it can capture all of that demand. It can improve the accuracy of that demand and drive improved forecasting. So improved forecasting to better serve your customers. If you know what the customers are buying, you will make the right things. You won't waste materials, you won't waste products, and you will not have empty shelves.
Thank you. Comments, Eric or Praful? Any comments? Anybody? Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, I love the prediction and points that Richard was mentioning there, and it really ties perfectly to what you were mentioning earlier about guerrilla marketing, what Praful stated about just the importance of prioritizing the consumer as opposed to the business, supply chain, or product itself. And the other thing that really stood out to me from what Richard was mentioning is, yes, we have so much data that's available, now more than ever, and who knows what the next few years are going to have in store. But I always say to my students, and Richard, I think, is trying to make this point too, so correct me if I'm wrong, is the data is only as applicable or as good as we make it out to be. Are we using the data for the right reasons, for the right purposes? And helping to make sure that supply chains are in the best, operating in the best way possible, and that we're still prioritizing the consumer and making sure that their needs are being met, as opposed to just trying to fill shelves just for the purposes of having full inventories, let's say.
Thank you, Eric. Praful, talk. Yep.
Yeah, no, I think, the whole topic of AI and supply chain, as Richard said, it's embedded in every part of the work that we do. One interesting use case that I saw was around the visibility part. If I know as a buyer, as a merchant, which is the kingpin in retail, and I typically buy from these suppliers, and I typically choose this route from Shanghai to Long Beach. That is the way I get products that I want to stock my shelf. There's so much data out there, and one of the pieces of data is shipping lanes, right? Historically, I can know how long a ship takes, and if you put in AI and other unstructured data like weather patterns, but trade winds, and I know that a product coming from Shanghai to Long Beach takes 12 days in March and 14 days, 16 days in October, it's because there are trade winds and tailwinds. So I can put all that information and say, if I really want it fast, intelligently, when can I place the order? When can I put it on the ship? And now I can even dig deeper with intelligence and find out if a supplier typically has issues, labor contracts coming up that's going to delay a shipment. How can I address that? Can I find alternative supply? Can I place an order early? Those are kind of things that the data was always there. Now, some of them I could argue is not digitized, so it's on spreadsheets, it's a paper that you can assimilate. but that information is there, and that's where, when you say the technology of that is where it's becoming available to the people that matter, and in this case, the merchants. That is where I feel when I say artificial intelligence includes machine learnings and robotic process, not just, but it's that putting information, assimilating it to what I need to time when I want to place an order, with whom, and what carrier should I choose, what lanes should I bring it to Shenzhen, not to Shanghai. Those kind of decisions I would never have access to.
Praful, Richard, Eric, is there something in the C-suite called the supply chain chairperson, the chief supply chain executive? Is that somebody who sits at that table? Anybody want to educate me on that? Yeah.
More and more so. Since the pandemic,
Yeah.
we're seeing that supply chains, the chief supply chain officer has a seat at the table. And in smaller companies, it's usually the chief operating officer and somebody working for the chief operating officer.
It sounds to me like the planning for next year will start the day after maybe Black Friday or Thanksgiving, or definitely the 26th of December in the world that celebrates Christmas as we know it here in North America. Very interesting. So that job is really 24 hours a day, 12 months a year, 13 months a year, if you will. What do you think, Praful? Yes?
Yeah, and I would even go further and say what I've seen, not in all cases, but a lot of chief supply chain officers are becoming CEOs. Before it was they moved finance into a CEO role, but people, I've seen some CHROs, but supply chain, if your business is to bring products to the customer and you understand and run that business, you may be taking on a CEO role. I've seen more of that,
Thank
especially
you.
pandemic.
Praful, we basically covered the prediction I picked for you, so I put a different one in the chat for you, and I will read it. It's prediction number 2. Praful says, AI will help understand local demand patterns to ensure effective, hyper-localized supply chains like MFCs, micro-fulfillment centers, or localized manufacturing VAS sites that are also environmentally friendly, ethically sound, and economically viable. That's a lot. Can you unpack that for us, please, Praful? And then we'll see if Eric and Richard want to comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think what the prediction I have, and it started with some retailers. Actually, my first prediction, I don't know if we'll get covered to it, is related to this, is, as I mentioned, the broad vision of every retailer is know your consumer and serve them on their terms. How do I get to when they want it? I got to bring production in some cases, but distribution close to consumption. If the customer wants it, they can get it in 10 minutes. And how does that happen? You're bringing everything closer. Micro fulfillment centers, and there are some highly mechanized that sit in a parking lot of a retailer. So there's some things they want, it goes through a highly mechanized, extremely fast, that by the time it's almost like a drive-through in a restaurant and the product is ready to be picked. If you went to a standard supply chain model where you had distribution centers supplying the stores, and if they were out of it, you're either taking something from the store that some shopper may be looking for, but how are you keeping that overstock inventory? And I say overstock not because it doesn't move much, but the popular items in these micro fulfillment centers, or in some cases, there are value add services. You want your initials on this. How do you bring that manufacturing sitting right next to the store? And so the ability to bring points to close to consumption is going to allow you the most amount of flexibility to meet a customer when, where, and how. And the first prediction why it's related is this concept of on-demand courier delivery. We've got partners we work with that do have a network of bicycle couriers. If you think in Manhattan, in the island of Manhattan, the fastest way to go from a store to a home is on a bicycle, not in a car, certainly not in a truck or a boxcar. And so the ability to do this, when we started talking about this custom adaptive and this on the terms, it was around just before the pandemic. And then I normally don't mention retailers, but 2 executives, Eric Nordstrom and Brian Cornell, from Nordstrom and Target, their strategy is all about how do I get to know my guests and serve them on their terms. And I was floored by the fact that what we're visioning for retailers, these people have, and 4 or 5 years later, you look at Target, they're getting in and buying these courier deliveries. They're making orders available in 10 minutes or less.
Mhm.
And so that's where everything is going. And so to the extent where you combine the two, bring everything closer to consumption. Obviously, you can't afford to put a 1 million square foot warehouse in the middle of Manhattan, but how do you bring it close? So
Yep. There's the rub is what, well, we know after COVID that a lot of real estate is available, and the question is what is going to be done to repurpose it and get it to bring income streams to whoever built it and owns it. So there, Richard, Eric, any comments on what Praful said? Anybody? Richard?
Yeah, sure. I think Praful did a great explanation of it, because I think we're now seeing channel sales and e-commerce sales, and we've had to change our supply chains to adapt to that, because there's no point being able to place an order in 10 seconds online and then saying it's going to be delivered in 6 weeks. It needs to be delivered in 6 minutes in some examples that we've just given there. So you need the omni-channel logistics processes as well, of handling individual cartons, individual packages rather than pallets. And every location where there's inventory becomes a distribution center, whether it's a warehouse, a actual distribution center, or the retailers facility themselves. So I couldn't agree more with what he was saying.
Thank you. Eric, comment?
Yeah, I loved all the points that Praful was mentioning. The one at the very end stood out to me in talking about Nordstrom's and Target. And it's almost a shame, that AI wasn't as prevalent now or back in the day as it is right now, because we saw for various reasons Target and Nordstrom's not really be successful in Canada. So this is where I can kind of use the Canadian card briefly. I always wondered, when I was still at school at the time, why isn't Target, successful here in Canada? Why is Nordstrom's starting to lose market share and a, market presence within the Canadian market? And I truly think, after hearing Praful's point and, just doing my own, research and having conversations, they didn't truly understand the Canadian consumer and how while there are some similarities between the Canadian shopping consumer versus the American shopping consumer, there still are some big differences. And AI, I think, could have really helped cater towards, your Canadian market base as opposed to your American market base, or even your Northwest American consumer, your Northeast market consumer, Southeast, Southwest, etc. And that's something that I think could have really helped both those organizations been more successful in Canada, 10 years ago when they tried to, have a larger market share presence.
Thank you, Eric. Very interesting. I have a quick story to share with all of you. Several years ago, I wrote a couple of romantic comedy plays, and I was producing them in my TV studio in Long Island with community actors. Richard likes this. And I needed masks. It was a ballroom scene for a masquerade ball on Valentine's Day, and people were going to be dancing wearing masks and matched up by a fictitious Fred and Ginger based on what dance style. This was a singles dance for dancers. And I needed special, beautiful masks, not, $5,000 mask, but pretty Halloween masks that would cover the eyes and look very pretty on the stage when we were filming this. Well, I went to a party supply store on Long Island. They had, plates and cups and streamers, the type, and all kinds of stuff for birthdays and sweet 16s. And the mask section was almost empty. And this was not around Halloween. So I found a young lady at the cash register and I said, "When is your shipment coming and when will you be getting them?" And she said, "I don't know. We just got 50 boxes there in the back. I have no idea what's in them." She said, "Come back in a couple days and we'll see if we've opened the boxes and maybe there'll be masks in them." I said, "Excuse me, what?" I mean, this was before anybody was talking about AI. It might have been around, but we weren't talking about it. So the answer was, we have no idea what inventory is coming. We didn't know it was out on the shelf. We're not sure when you're going to have it. Come back in 2 days or a week and check the shelf yourself. She couldn't call me. She couldn't take my number. She had absolutely no interest. So to me, retail has always been the front of store representative. They don't realize that they represent the brand in every possible way. I did go back a week later and I found them. No, you know what? I ordered them online. I found them on Amazon, a package of the most gorgeous masks, and they were wonderful and they were perfect for my play. That's my little story. Eric, you've now been designated the demographic coach or resource for my shows because we don't usually, never mind. Okay, thank you. I want to go to a prediction from Eric, and Eric was going to talk about inventory management. He says AI can automate inventory replenishment, I love that word, by monitoring stock levels in real time. This will help ensure popular items like masks are always available while minimizing excess inventory, which is crucial during high demand periods like we're talking about, year-end retail shopping. Eric, you want to expand this for us, please?
Absolutely. So I found this prediction really interesting for a lot of different reasons because it's combining both the supply chain side of the topic, but also kind of the marketing area that we've all spoken on at various levels this morning or today. And I think that's, fitting for the reasons that I'm just going to mention here. So number one is inventory. Inventory is one of the key items that sometimes does not get enough attention and focus, not just from a supply chain perspective, but more so from a marketing and consumer point of view as well. Meaning it's one of the key pieces of information organizations and supply chains need to monitor because there's trade-offs or there's advantages and disadvantages. Inventory is not managed properly, meaning you don't want to have too much stock or supply of something because if consumers are not going to buy it, it's going to go to waste. So it's going to be a lost cost. And it's also going to take up valuable shelf space or capacity within your store or retail location or locations. So that's the issue with excess inventory. On the other side of the spectrum is what happens if your organization or business runs out of inventory, number one, or B, does not get your inventory to your supplier, to your consumer within a quick amount of time. So inventory management and finding that perfect balance of having the right amount of inventory at the right time as well. So crucial and important for organizations to A, prioritize, and B, make sure that they're, evaluating it and monitoring it on a consistent basis, especially for the retail shopping season where we know demand is going to be a little bit higher. You talked about that earlier about how, it's in retail for all different types of products, all different types of, items that are sold by businesses and organizations. And inventory management, there's different ways that can be done. But in any type of organization, it's all about efficiency, effectiveness, and productivity. And if there's a way for AI to automate, inventory replenishment, making sure that an organization is properly forecasting how much inventory is going to be, needed at this time versus that time, boy, could that help organizations be more productive, help managing their costs, at a more efficient rate, and just help, as we've talked about, at length today, the customer having the right inventory needed for them and making sure that their needs are prioritized as opposed to an organization dropping the ball or having an inaccurate, estimate of their inventory at any given time.
Thank you. Very, very interesting. Praful, go talk. You're muted. You're muted, Praful. Unmute. You're still
Sorry.
okay,
Yes.
go.
So inventory is the lifeline for a retailer. It's the biggest investment. It's valued very closely. Where I find real-time inventory, visibility of that inventory anywhere in your value network, whether it's in the suppliers or it's in your store or it's in your distribution centers, somewhere in between, you really have the opportunity to go from just in case to just in time inventory. Because a lot of times I buy, you manage supply chain, somebody manages a store, and a store tells me I need this, I order it just in case. So you go to a better managed inventory. In retail, when you have multiple outlets, anywhere from 100 to 9,000 grocery stores is 15,000 stores, now you've added multiple points of where your inventory could be. And so you've added more complexity. And one of the things I'm very fortunate, not only work with retailers, but also partners that bring out these niche solutions. And in retail, what do you do when you go into a store that's got real-time inventory and you don't have it? You don't have the mask. They can look on their handheld and tell you it's available at that store, They can even, through these on-demand courier services, bring it to you while you're in the store. And that's great because ultimately you're trying to serve the customer. The challenge is, are you taking a product from a store that's selling well versus you could have gone a little further to a store that product was not selling? And what we call intraday store balancing that inventory, and then bringing product and using AI and machine learning and history and saying, if you want this product, get it from this store because it's not selling well. Because if you do, guess what? I'm not, otherwise, I might have put that product on a markdown. I might have put a promotion. So I've degraded my margin. Or I might have called the headquarters, which in retail, they're not called headquarters, they're called store support centers for a reason.
Oh, excuse
These are
me.
around the stores. I will place a purchase order and order more inventory where I could have moved. So AI and this intelligent technology around AI and machine learning and robotics and all that has allowed looking at that data through visibility in real time, make decisions for you. You still have to execute those decisions, but it gives you a recommended, not just what to get from where, but there's a reason of why you want it from where versus source A versus source B. So it really is smoothing things out, allowing you to really optimize inventory. And if you can do that, any retailer can do that. That's the different, and obviously make the consumer happy. Those are recipes for success.
Thank you. Very interesting. Richard, anything you want to add to that one?
I just want to add on something that Praful said right at the end about inventory optimization, because having inventory optimization strategies to better plan earlier in the process can better position inventory to start with based on the changing demand signals that are coming in. And that is a key business planning tool that we're seeing lots of companies leveraging to sometimes position less inventory in certain places, or finding new ways to store intermediates because you can finish to order certain products and customize them to order. So I think that that tying visibility and inventory optimization strategies together is a great way forward to better serving customers and making sure you've got the right products in the right place at the right time.
Thank you all. This is Eric. Thank you for that. I'm thinking of inventory at the supermarket level, which is not always tied to holidays, but I needed some mushrooms for some fresh winter soup I was making, and the mushrooms on the shelf looked like crap. They were all brown and old and terrible. And I found a young lady in the produce department at my local store, and I said, "Have you got any fresh mushrooms?" And she said, "I knew I forgot something." And she went in the back and brought out an entire cart of fresh, gorgeous, clean white mushrooms. But what was interesting was, one thing, Praful, I want to add one thing. I was looking for Vidalia onions, and the sign said bag $5.99. Well, I couldn't find them. There were white onions and yellow onions and Spanish onions, and this. There were nothing marked Vidalia sweet. That's my favorite. So I found the same young lady, and I said to her, "Can you help me find the Vidalia?" She said, "Oh, they're out of season. They won't be back until April." I knew I forgot to take the sign off the shelf, and she pulled the 5.99. And I said to her, "I bought them at Trader Joe's 2 weeks ago, a whole bag of them, but I'm running out fast." And she said, "Well, you're going to have to wait until next spring. There are no Vidalia onions. They're out of season." So this, to me, is a microcosm. And of course, the store she wasn't on a pad, an iPad looking at inventory management. She knew what was in the bag. Praful, go ahead. What do you want to say?
No, just a quick point on the inventory optimization. The phrase is multi-echelon, and retail is unique from other industries in the sense, because they have direct to consumer, they have stores. So your consumption points could be 10 to 9, 15, 18,000. So you just made on the demand side, multiple levels of consumption or multiple points of consumption. When you look on the supply chain side, we talked about micro fulfillment centers, forward fulfillment centers, regional distribution centers, suppliers. Now you've just added different levels of your supply network. So with all this, it's not just optimizing the whole, but it's optimizing individually Is the product there? And it's a lot of data humanly possible to see where should go where. And that's where technology like AI tries to get you to a point of optimization.
And tries is the operative word. I want to read one prediction from Brad, who couldn't join us, and just get a quick comment. We've only got 6 minutes left, so let me just float this out for all three of you. He says, customer experience will override customer choice. Leveraging AI to combine supply chain and customer programs will focus on experience to maintain customers. AI will enable this to be real-time and continuously updated with the latest data. We've been talking about inventory. Retailers will lean into this over simply providing choices. Customers want positive experiences and certainty of choice rather than an overabundance of choice. Let me get a 1-minute comment from each of you. Richard, we'll start with you, then Praful, then Eric. Richard, thoughts? Agree or disagree?
I tend to agree. I think that the whole concept of the customer experience is very important. But as I said earlier, that the customer experience doesn't end with placing the order. The whole customer experience includes both the sales and marketing aspect, but also the supply chain that delivers that order. And I've been seeing research of customers being less and less accepting of late deliveries or wrong quantities being delivered.
Yep.
And that's all part of the customer's experience as well. So we've got to have a holistic view of customer experience.
We're spoiled. We know what could be. Praful, thoughts on that prediction, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Having been in retail, it's all about customer centricity. It's all about consumer intimacy. It's not. It's about the whole experience they have, but that includes things like some retailers call it seamless. I prefer to call it. There's no omni-channel. There's one channel, and that's the customer channel, regardless where they are. But the experience has got to be seamless, frictionless. Those are the words, which just simply means wherever I buy, my price is not different. I get the same experience. You've got AI with metadata now creating virtual in-store experiences using metadata and avatars, so making my experience as if I was in the store. The ability for the stores to communicate to me through text message and pop-ups, the ability to personalize those. So the whole experience is start to finish, all the way to returning and bring me back in. And a lot of retailers, including one that I'm visiting this week, talk about the legendary customer service. If you're selling a product, if you're not a Hermes or a LVMH selling a distinct brand, you're selling products that is available everywhere. How do you stand out to the customer through small experiences? So certainly couldn't agree more.
Thank you very much. Eric, I saved a minute and a half for you. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. I agree with the gentleman wholeheartedly. I think, especially as we've talked about today, they're starting and continuing to be a greater digital and online presence of retailers, supply chains, even and shopping. It's even more crucial and important that customers get that full experience as opposed to just shipping and delivering, the product in the most in just the fastest and efficient way. Yes, that is, necessary, but you also need to have that experience. And towards the end of the prediction too, making sure that there's not endless options, is that can sometimes do more harm than good, as studies have shown an overabundance of options can actually, cause people to freeze, to second guess themselves. So having a little bit more clarity, almost reducing the number of things that are available, I think can really help not just consumers, but organizations in the future as well.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. And thank you to Brad Pawlowski, who couldn't join us today, for that prediction. I thought that was interesting. Quick pop quiz around the table. Richard, will you be shopping brick and mortar or online most this holiday season, or more? What's your preference?
I've lived in the US for 30 years. I've been shopping online for my families in the UK since it was available. So I'm an online shopper.
Online shopper. Praful, Karanth, what do you think? How will you be shopping?
Well, it depends on the product. If it's a highly luxury item, I want to go see it, but largely online. At least replenishing items at home is for sure. There's no reason to go into the store.
Okay. Eric, what about you?
For me, it's going to actually be a little bit more in person, but for the reasons that we kind of talked about earlier, is I like the experience of just being in a mall. I like just walking around, shopping from place to place, seeing again for like clothing items if it's the right fit, if it's the right size. And I think I'm going to give Richard credit for this earlier. It's just that socialization component. I get a lot out of that. That's kind of like my extra benefit of, retail shopping. Still going to use online, but, face to face too.
Face to face. And I'll tell all of you that I bought my current house online. I bought it over Zoom. I had never set foot in this state, in this place. I drove to Tennessee the day of the closing on the house, and I looked at the house after I'd seen Zoom and I'd had tours and everything, and I said, "Oh my God, what did I do? It's fabulous." Complete
Bonnie,
surprise. Yes,
surprisingly, I did the same thing in Austin when we moved from Chicago.
there you go.
All
There
the
you
house
go.
day of closing. So
We're talk about a plethora of opportunities and choices and inventory, and that's a whole different ball game. I haven't done a show on real estate and AI, but I might have to do it next year. I want to thank all of you, and I want you all to put up your finger, wag your finger on the count of 3. You're going to join me in saying, no, no, no. People say the future is already here, and we know that's not quite true. So the answer is 1, 2, 3. No, no, no.
No.
And that's because I was thinking about saying that to all of you, and that was in the future, and I said it, and it's in the past. So we're all going to try to make the future a better one. Bonnie D signing off. Thank you to Matt and probably Jordan at Voice America for being our engineers. Goodbye to LinkedIn and Facebook twice, and to YouTube. And I'll see you again next week. Matt and Jordan, are we out?
We are out. Great show, everyone.
Still Matt. Thank you very much.